me about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dreams. Right now. Inspirational perspective.
Excited about today's topic because this is a sweet spot for me, and just a place of passion. We'll be talking entrepreneurship, and I'm looking forward to today's conversation. I want to discuss why everybody should be an entrepreneur. Even if you got a job, even if you got a W-2, especially if you have a job, especially if you have a W-2. We ended last week's show with me discussing that. I'll start this week's show with discussing that a little bit more. And the 7 reasons entrepreneurs fail. And I want to talk a little bit about what I've learned over the past decade coaching entrepreneurs, working with entrepreneurs, one, being an entrepreneur myself, the struggles, but ultimately what I've noticed in terms of what differentiates successful entrepreneurs from unsuccessful entrepreneurs, and ultimately why I see people fail, like why we see entrepreneurs fail. I'm going to talk about why entrepreneurs make more money than employees. There's a reason for that across the board. And also how to navigate, if you're an entrepreneur, how to navigate this current recession and what a lot of people are saying this is going to be worse than 08, 07, 08. I don't know. I'm not all the way there. I'm not sold on that. It is a recession. Oh, by the way, let me say this, because I had a few people reach out to me, emails and other things on social media, and they're like, what do you mean there's a recession? Nobody said there's a recession. What are you talking about? Give me some sources, right? And they want to see media sources. Y'all be careful with media is not the source, right? What you want to go to is like when you talk about sources is like journalists, like they have to tell the truth. Because a lot of these shows are just that, man. They're shows. Anyway, I'm going to tell you guys, like I always said, don't believe me. Like, be incredibly cynical. Go research it. Research for yourself everything that you hear me say today. I'm pointing you. My job is just to point you in the right direction, not to convince you or anything like that, but just to point you in the right direction, okay? In terms of recession, this is how I responded to everybody. I just said, Google the word recession. Just Google the word recession, and then go back and look at our performance as a country, GDP, in the first quarter and the second quarter. In the first quarter, GDP was down about 1.5% or so. And then in the second quarter, it was down again. That's recession, folks. Simple as that. Let's just go first into, I'm jazzed up about the show. I got my notes. I got to make sure I hit everything. Let's go into why everybody should be an entrepreneur. Everyone should be an entrepreneur. Now, I began to talk about this last week. I'm just going to kick it off like this. If you're an employee somewhere, you get a W-2. That's what it means. And by the way, there are many entrepreneurs who get W-2s themselves. They issue one, or they're on their company's payroll, so they're an employee of that company. I think that's the best employee to be. That's how my wife and I set up, right? Like, I'm an employee of my company. Like, I own this company, and I'm an employee of that company. That company pays me. And guess what, you guys? Whenever I feel like I need a raise, my boss, hey, boss, you've been working me real hard. I need a little more money, right? Or and here's one that doesn't work. in the corporate arena, I got a few more bills than I had last year. You could never go to your boss and be like, I got a few more bills and request a pay raise and get one. That's not, but guess what? When you're an entrepreneur or when you're an employee of your own company, then you can do that if the company is profitable and if, another big if, it actually is allowed in the budget. We're going to talk about that. A lot of entrepreneurs don't have budgets, and so you already know that's the reason a lot of people fail. Because they don't have a budget. It's like, well, I just gave myself a raise because I wanted to. And then, a year or so later, they don't have the money to invest in the business, and, well, business fails. All right, so one of the things I love about entrepreneurship. Now, okay, so why should everybody be an entrepreneur? I gave this example last week. I'm going to kick off with this example. There are the main expense, and this is, again, one of the reasons why there could be an entrepreneur. Check this out. A lot of folks with money or so-called think they making money in the corporate arena, they have a job. They'll quote off to you, like, well, not a lot of people say what they make, but let's just say you're in the conversation with someone in terms of what they make, okay? A lot of them will say, well, I make $120,000 a year. And that's not true. They don't make 120. Now, they may have a salary, right? Their salary may be $120,000 a year. That could be their salary. On paper, when they got their offer letter, their boss or whomever, company they're working at said, we're going to pay you we think you're valuable. We're going to pay you $120,000 a year. Oh, man, that's amazing. So I make $120,000 a year. So, no, you don't. You don't make that. Now, if an entrepreneur is saying that, it's still not necessarily true, but they're closer to the mark. And hear me out. They're closer to the mark than anyone who's just an employee. Now, the reason for this, we already know, right? Taxes, Social Security. I mean, you name it. I forget what all that looks like on a check. But you got these acronyms that you can't understand, and they all taking your money, okay? They all getting a piece of the pie. And it's not a small piece of the pie. In many cases, it's at minimum 15%. At minimum, by the way, you're not making six figures if they're only taking 15. But at minimum, right, and then higher than that across the board. And so you're not making $120,000. As a matter of fact, if you're making $120,000, what it should look like in terms of pay is $10,000 a month. Many people who are making $120,000, which should equate to $10,000 a month, are only seeing $6,000 a month of that. Now, do the math on that. That's $72,000. You're like, well, man, but I'm just saying, right? So let's go back to why everyone should be an entrepreneur. Because, and I'm doing round numbers here. Somebody's probably like, it's a little more than that, 6,700, Linnell. I mean, let's just, all right, I get it. All right. But either way, let's just do round numbers, okay? So $120,000 a year should equate to $10,000 a month in a year. But we know most people aren't getting that. Most W-2s, employees, you're not getting that, okay? Just keep listening. This is why you should be an entrepreneur. I'm going to teach you how to get more of that money into your pocket. So you're getting about $6,000, $7,000 if you're lucky. Okay, $7,000. Let's run the numbers on $6,000. That's $72,000 a year. That means you're paying $48,000 in taxes a year. Some of it's Social Security, and there's a promise that you're going to get some of that back. All right? If you believe that, I got a piece of land in Florida. Give us a call. I'd like to sell it to you for $100,000. That's a joke, folks, okay? But you get my point, okay? All right? So you're not getting a whole lot of that money back. Okay, now, granted, some of it is actually you're benefiting from it. Healthcare, things like that you're paying pre-tax. Hopefully, this is another reason why saving is so important. Because hopefully, another reason why you're only getting $6,000 is because, by the way, the person getting $7,000, they're not doing this. So hear me out. But hopefully the reason you're only getting $6,000 is because you're contributing the max amount to your 401k. Right? So that way, you're giving as much as you can to the 401k. You're maxing it out. Why should you max it out? Because pre-tax. So you're maxing it out, and the company is contributing a percentage or a portion that's free money. Okay, so if you're at $6,000, hopefully you're maxed out, things like that. But on the flip side, so then maybe it's not 50, $48,000. Maybe you're only paying, let's say, $40,000 to the government. Okay? Well, how do you get that money? I mean, I want that money. That's my money. I worked really hard for that money. Here's how you get that money. Become an entrepreneur. Here's what it looks like. So, a friend of yours has a multi-level marketing business, or you have a business on the side. I see a lot of folks do this, and they're like, I don't want people to know. They run these cash businesses on the side. So you're making $120,000. Let's say you do something else, right? You could DJ. You could sell cakes. You could cater. These are all the kind of things we do in our community. Phenomenal. It's great. But here's what we do on the back end. We'll be like, I can't afford to make more money, so you have to pay me cash. And we think we're winning, because everybody is paying us cash on this business that hasn't been legally established. And the reason we haven't legally established is because we're disgruntled. Yes, the government, Uncle Sam's getting so much of my money. And so we believe that it makes sense for us to hide the rest of the money that we get, the rest of the cash that we get. And I get that. And in some cases, you run the numbers, it just might. It's not the majority of the time, though, when you work the tax system the way I'm about to tell you, okay? So what I'm saying is, instead, you want to start a legitimate business. You want to talk to an attorney friend, have them start an LLC. The reason I say an attorney friend is so you properly protect yourself, right? This is the number one reason most cash businesses are likely to be in trouble. Because when it's not a real entity, you yourself are not protected. It's not a real entity, right? So Ade sold me some food. I got sick. I'm suing you, right? If it were a company, I'd be suing the LLC, because that's who I paid my money to. But if it's Ade, I'm going after Ade. And now, not only do I have access to Ide's little cash from the catering business that he's trying to hide, but it's in this account. So now his accounts are frozen because he's in the lawsuit. Like, hear me out. And, an attorney call in and tell me if I'm lying. Okay? But I might be being dramatic, but I'm not lying, right? And so his accounts, his accounts are frozen. But guess what else I get access to? The $120,000 he makes. So the little bit he's got saved up, all those things, I get access to that. Right? In my suit. When I come after him, because he's cash rich, he's making $120,000 a year, he's got all this cash from his catering business, and I got sick, or my family member got sick. Now when I sue him, he is personally liable. So this don't even have nothing to do with taxes. This is one reason why, as entrepreneurs, or you're running a side hustle, you should be talking to an attorney, okay? So what's another reason? I'm just laying out the reasons why everyone should be an entrepreneur. What's another reason you would want to be an entrepreneur if you have a W-2, okay, if you're an employee? So we already established, one is that an LLC of some sort will protect you. All right. But now, on the flip side, let's talk about taxes. So the beautiful thing about a business, if you're running a side hustle and you're making $120,000 a year, That's pretty good money. So let me ask you a question. Do I really want my side hustle to make a huge profit? Now think about this, because when I say it, I want you, like, we have to understand accounting. All right? We have to understand accounting. Here's what I mean, okay? Do I really want this business to make a huge profit? Because if it makes a huge profit, that adds on to the $120,000 that I've been making. Now, if you're killing the game and you can't help but make a profit, that's one thing, okay? But most of us, we're not doing that. As a matter of fact, the average entrepreneur is making about on the high end, $52,000 a year, okay? The average entrepreneur. On the low end, about $32,000 to $52,000 a year, okay? So, if I'm making, and by the way, you all, let me use myself as an example. So I was a corporate executive, vice president, and officer. Okay, I was making well over six figures. Like, you can triple that. So I'm making well over six figures, and I had a companies that were generating over six figures too. So how did this benefit me? Here's how it benefited me. I've had people ask, Linnell, how did you make the transition from corporate America to entrepreneurship so easily? It's because, you all, I invested everything I was making back into my companies. For the first few years, because I didn't need the money. I didn't need the extra money I was making. Now, I get that some of us are in a different place. I'm just telling you how I did it, right? And this is how I situated myself where I wasn't paying a lot of taxes. I did it on purpose. So this is when I handled a lot of my brand expenses, my marketing expenses, an assistant to support me because I was in the office doing work, right? So, hey, here are the things that need to happen. And so I got people on payroll. I'm consultants helping me out to build my business. So that way, all of that is an expense that basically by the end of the year, my company wasn't making any money. As a matter of fact, it was digging into my pockets. How was it digging into my pockets? I was taking potential clients out to dinner, even if I knew they would say no, right? And for a while in corporate America, I was single. So single people, listen up. Like, I'd be on a date, single men in particular who are paying. Like, I didn't complain about paying. It was an expense. What do you do? Oh, well, I'm in corporate. You know what I do, with that. But I'm also a coach. Let me tell you about coaching. Or I also have a digital publishing company. Let me tell you about that. Now it's a business dinner, right off. Right? It's not just a date anymore. I told you about my business. I mean, I'm serious, right? Now, I didn't go say that to my date. This is a business dinner now. But I would pay with my company credit card, write it off. This is before Trump changed the meal and entertainment. It's a little different now, okay? Which I still don't understand why he did that, but whatever. Okay, but I would write it off. I would write my mileage to the restaurant off. I would write my mileage to work off. I explained how I did that last week at the end of the show. I would write my mileage to work off simply by buying a P.O. box near my office. I had a client that was driving. This client was a coach. They were driving 90 minutes to work before the pandemic, and then 90 minutes back every day. Like I think they said they were doing like 40 miles a day. I'm like, are you writing that off? Well, no, I can't write that off. You're a coach. Do you have, is your business, set up properly? Oh, I need to do that. Do you know how much money you're leaving on the table? Let's do some quick math. You got your phone up? I really want you all to get this, right? You know how much money this woman was leaving on the table? 40 miles there, 40 miles back. So do this. I want you to multiply 80 miles, right, by 55 cents. 55 cents. I think it's 54 and something, but 55 cents is the going, what came up? 80 miles by 0.55. 80 by 0.55. $44. Every time, every trip she took back and forth, she could have been deducting every day. So times that 44 by 5, right? So $44, then times that by 5. $220. So every week, she could have been taking a $220 deduction just for driving. How does she do that? She puts a P.O. box next to the office that she's going to. This P.O. box takes all her, she's a coach, right? Takes all the coaching mail that she gets, all the invoices, all the checks that people are sending her, all that is at the P.O. box. She has to drive 40 miles every day to get her coaching mail. So she could write off 220. Now, let's say she worked 48, she drove to the office 48 weeks out the month. So that was 220 times 48. What's that? $10,560 that she would be getting back from the government. It's not that clean, but I want you all to understand what I'm saying, okay? That she could potentially write off. Now, this young lady was making over 6 figures. Do you think she needs that $10,500 deduction on her taxes? Do you think she needs that? Absolutely she does. She needs that $10,500 deduction on her taxes, so that way she's not paying as much money per year. This is right here. Like this right here. If you're not sold on the fact that if you are a W-2, okay? If you're not sold on the fact that if you're a W-2 and you run a side hustle, that it should be legit after that example, by the way, I just gave you 2. I could keep going, but I want to talk about more, okay? Because I'm not a tax professional. By the way, let me say that. Talk to your accountant. Make sure I'm telling the truth. Remember, don't believe anything I say. You do the homework yourself, okay? But I just got a sneaky suspicion when you look it up. You're going to be like, oh, my God, this is true. All right. That's why everybody should be an entrepreneur. I shared this last week, but I can remember before I left corporate America I'm the only brown one, only black one in the office. Everybody else complaining about their taxes. I'm the youngest one, too. Everybody else complaining about their taxes. They going on and on about how much they spending. I'm just sitting there quiet. The reason I'm sitting there quiet is because I knew these folks would get angry. They would be mad if they knew I didn't have the same tax problems they had. The reason I didn't have the same tax problems they had is because I was tax smart. I was tax smart. One of the biggest expenses that you have is your taxes. You want to make more money? Save more. Let's go back to this example of why entrepreneurs make more, period, okay? Because this person making $120,000, let's say they don't have a side hustle. If an entrepreneur makes $120,000, they're getting way more of that than you because we already established you're only getting 72. So that means $48,000 is going to the government. This entrepreneur, and by the way, the entrepreneur at the end of the year may not be reporting back a profit of 72. They may be reporting back a profit of much less than that. And this is where we get it kind of sideways because they said, this year, I don't want to make that much money. I want to get, I'm not moving. I'm not buying a house. And see, this is the difference. This is the beauty of entrepreneurship. My wife and I, we've been looking for a house for the last 2 years. You know what we did? We started paying ourselves more. Why would we do that? We knew there were tax implications, but why would we do that? So that way when we go to the loan officer, they look at our income. They go, oh, you guys do make quite a bit of money. You can't afford this house, can't you? Okay. Guess what? As soon as I move, guess who's taking a significant pay decrease? Why? Because I don't want to pay the taxes. Guess who else is sitting at the dinner when I take a client? Me. I'm eating too. You know what I mean? It's not free food, but it's tax deductible food. You get where I'm going? So I don't need that much money. I don't pay my own car note. Why would I do that? Right? I don't pay for a lot of things. Linnell Harris technically is a fairly poor individual. You try to sue me and find out. You can go after Linnell Harris if you want to, right? Linnell Harris doesn't have a lot of money by design. By design. And by the way, when I accumulate enough cash, I go stick it somewhere in the back in the trust, right? So it's like, you don't know about that if you did come for me. And you can't know about it. All right. This is why entrepreneurs are driving better, often living better because they have an office in, don't get it twisted, right? You walk in the entrepreneur, this is nice. How they do this? Oh, believe me, that office they showed you is paying for a portion of that mortgage, utilities, all that, right? They are writing it off. I'm telling you, folks. Oh, here's another thing. Here's the third thing why everyone should be an entrepreneur, and then we're going to shift to why entrepreneurs fail. Here's the third thing. I was just talking to another entrepreneur, and they were like, yeah, man, my girlfriend and I were moving to Charlotte, and this is a former mentee. And we're moving to Charlotte. We found a house. The house is, such and such square feet. We got this many bedrooms. I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. You're gonna be writing off the rent? Huh? I said, you are writing, entrepreneurs, listen to me. You are writing off your rent, right? Wait, Linnell, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you're an entrepreneur. Okay, you do. He's making good money as an employee, right? But you're also an entrepreneur. And then your girl, who told me she sells the beads and necklaces and things on the side, what room is she doing that in? Right? And then you have your office, right? It's just the two of you, right? I mean, I'm guessing you all are in the same bedroom. So the other two bedrooms should be offices, and you put your little desk up, computer up, all that's a tax write-off, and then you write your rent off, and you write a percentage of all the utilities off. Y'all get this? Are you all, give me some hearts on Facebook if this was making sense to you. You're like, okay, Linnell, I need to legitimately start my business this week. Give me some love if this is making sense to you guys. Okay? Look, man, it's knowledge. We lack the knowledge. And then get this on the back end. It's not just the knowledge, but then the discipline to go do something about it. Folks will be like, I don't have no money. I'm struggling. When just a few moves, just a few chess moves, and you can completely shift your financial situation. And again, the main way that you're losing money right now are your taxes. They're your taxes. Folks are squabbling about gas, and gas went up and up. Okay, it is what it is, but then get some money back on the mileage. We just saw the example, 10,560 in the year. Right? Now, that's her. She's driving much further than a lot of us, but we get the point. You driving half of that, that's half of that. I think entrepreneurship is a phenomenal, a crazy, crazy gift. This is why, by the way, people are looking to come to America. Because not only, let me say this last thing about entrepreneurship. So this is the fourth reason. Okay, I should have wrote it down. The 4 reasons everyone should be an entrepreneur. You got that, right? So this first part, we're going to just chop it up. Okay. The 4 reasons everybody should be on, and I could keep going, by the way. It's just, y'all need this. Okay. So check this out. Here's another reason why everybody should be an entrepreneur. Okay. So we covered this whole idea of See, my man on Facebook. Yes, sir. He's finding a way to write off the Ghana trip. Right? Hey, the Ghana trip, if you are the president of your company, this is how I would do it. This is another reason. All right. So now we have 5 reasons. Okay. Here's another reason. Okay. This is how you do it. If you're the president of your company, this is an identity tour. If I come into my identity as the president of this company and fully step into my purpose, that enhances my business, right? So this is a self-development opportunity. So you write it off. Who are you paying? You're paying a coaching company. You're paying Insights for Life coaching, right? So you write off the $54.97 that you're going to Ghana. That's a write-off. You don't even got to figure it out if you have an LLC. And then here's the other thing. Somebody might say, well, Linnell, my LLC doesn't have $5,000. It's not doing so well. So then you take a loan from yourself. By the way, you could charge interest and then, anyway, it's like, but you take a loan from yourself, right? And you like, I just infused my company with cash from myself, another write-off, okay? And then you take that and the company pays for the self-development, another write-off. So now I have a personal write-off from my $120,000 job because I loaned my company money. And then the company, that turned into a direct expense. And so that's a write-off for the company. So the company now is $54.97 down from paying for the trip, and it's got to pay back the loan. If you want, with interest. There are so many, I can make the whole show about this. If you are paying full price on your taxes, you are losing money. This is why everyone should be an entrepreneur. Because if you are an entrepreneur right now in this moment, even if you have a job and you've been wanting to go to Ghana, that's what I just explained is how you should do it. That's how you do it. This is my self-development journey, my self-development trip, right? In the past, let me just say this. In the past, I've shared with you all that my wife and I, when it comes to self-development, that we spent from $25,000 to $50,000 on self-development. A lot of people are like, oh my goodness, it's a lot of money. I get it. It's a lot of money. But hopefully now something's clicking for those of you who've heard that in the past, something's clicking. You're like, see, ain't nothing. Just listen to me. Ain't nothing like going to San Diego with your boo, right? To attend a self-development conference. And by the way, we're there. We go to the conference. We get the education. Don't get it twisted. But we do get there a little early. And we do leave a little late. You feel me? You feel me? Right? And, so we might just have to look at our notes by the pool, the day after the conference. Like, babe, let's sit by the pool and review everything. And by the way, because we're still reviewing everything from the conference, when I say, oh, can you bring me a watermelon salad to the pool? That's a write-off too. Like that's a write-off. So my flight, my hotel, the cost of the conference, my food, that's how we got to that number. That's how folks, I don't take many trips that Linnell Harris pays for. For what? Why would I pay for? You get where I'm going? Okay. We're almost at the top of the hour. So that other one, I might share at the end of the show as another. This is, and by the way, when you begin to understand the tax code and what you can do as an entrepreneur, like this is just the first couple of pages. Now, an author is going to draw it out, right? And they're going to draw it out. You're going to have to, so let's move to chapter 5 now, right? It's like everything I just gave you probably would have had to read 10 pages, which is good, by the way, which is good because you actually know how to execute on it. You will actually know how to execute on that. This just dropped in my spirit. Somebody needs to hear it. Here's the 5th reason everyone should be an entrepreneur. The 5th reason everyone should be an entrepreneur is because entrepreneurs can't get laid off. They just transition. Your job, by the way, it's happening. I shared it last week. And folks, by the way, ain't believe me. They say somebody wrote, you mentioned there were some mortgage brokers that laid off people. Who were they again? I'm like, well, it's right there in the video. You can. It's right there in the video. But after the show, I heard that Loan Depot laid off 2,000 people, 2,000 loan officers. Now, here's how I would do it. This is Linnell Harris style, right? If I was a loan officer, one, I already got my licenses and things like that. And so I'm already breaking people off on the side, if that's legal. I don't know if you can or not, right? But I'm already got my own mortgage broker company on the side. That's a given. You ain't getting me. Everybody that calls me and becomes my client will be my client in this side of the business, okay? Now, it may not be legal. You might sign disclosures, things like that, okay? But if if you could, this is how I think about things, right? So I'm working for them, and then I got my own on the side. They come to me, and I'm one of those 2,000. Mr. Harris, we no longer need your services. I'm like, oh, okay. Now, mind you, I got all my clients. I already got my licenses. I already got an LLC set up, right? I'm just transitioning. Now, y'all check legally. Again, there might be disclosures that people sign that don't allow them to do that. I'm just giving you overall, right? But then a layoff, sometimes layoffs, a lot of those things that's when you get a law or an employment attorney be like, hey, they laid me off. So, they said I can't do this for myself after a year, after 2 years, but they laid me off. So does that still apply? Work with the employment attorney? You never know, right? But that's why I would have my own business because now I'm transitioning. It's just a transition for me. And then, by the way, I'm calling the people I've served in the past, and I'm like, hey, I work with Loan Depot. I don't know if the fee was 1.5%, 2%, whatever it is, right, on your loan. If you go through me directly, I'll give it to you for 1. I'm sending out emails. Anyway, this is entrepreneurial mindset. Like I'm going to eat mindset, not a dependent, I need a job mindset. It's a different mindset, okay? So, Linnell, what do you see as the benefit for having an LLC versus an S corp? Here's the main thing that I understand, that I know. Again, I'm a coach. So talk to your tax professionals, your attorneys, things like that. But based on my experience, an LLC is an entity, a business entity that protects you, okay? And if you're not taking payment from the company, an LLC is a great way to start, okay? So I have some companies that are LLCs. I'm not taking payments from those companies. The money is sitting there. I'm letting it. This is the 6th reason. For those of you on Facebook, this is why you should watch the stream, right? So remember this one, Ade. This is the 6th reason. Because maybe what I'm doing is just building my business credit. Maybe what I'm just building my business credit, right? So I'm not taking any money from that. I'm paying bills. I'm building business credit. That EIN number, that Dun & Bradstreet number now has lots of credibility. I've built the credit from 5,000 to 10,000 to 20,000 to 40,000 to 80,000, right? And I'm just building credit in that business. A good example of a company I have that I don't take money from is Inspirational Perspective Publishing.
Company has cash. It's got cash on hand. It helps me make investments. It's how my day gets paid, right? So it helps me make investments. It's got credit. So when I need material, when I need things, I can get it on demand almost. And so that's an LLC. An S corp is when you decide, okay, I'm ready to pay myself a substantial salary. I want to pay myself. Now, why would I move to an S corp? Because the S corp allows for the business to actually subsidize the payment of my taxes. So I'm not paying all my taxes. The business can come in and pay some of those taxes. The business is paying for my health care, is paying for other things when I have my S corp set up properly, right? And so that is, in my opinion, the difference. It also comes down to how much money you're making. So if you're not really taking a substantial amount of money, you could keep it in the LLC because the taxes may not necessarily be crucifying, okay? But as you make more money, if you're taking more money, then your tax situation with an LLC could become undesirable. And so that's when you move to an S corp. S corps have to file quarterly. It's a little more complicated. And so if you're a new entrepreneur, you're new at this, you got a job, I would recommend an LLC because you really don't want to be taking payments. If anything, this is to increase how much money you make from your W-2 with write-offs, with expenses. And what I will be doing is doing everything I can to invest back into the business. So that way I have some level of security with the recession coming. I'm like marketing. If I got a catering business, like I need to have more business than I can handle. I got to be telling people, I'm sorry, you're on the wait list. If I can get to you, you can't. Like, but my brand name is out there. Like my name is out there. So then that way, if something shifts in my life, I could just move to catering and make potentially more money. But this is, how we need to think. Great question, Joy.
So here's another reason why everybody should be an entrepreneur, Gino. Because it gives you access to multiple credit lines. So on a personal level, let me explain this. On a personal level, when I have my personal credit, right, I put in my social security number and I have my personal credit. And by the way, I guard my personal credit with everything because it's part of what guarantees and provides leverage for my business credit initially, okay? Now, so my personal credit, I'm using that as leverage. But then when I get my LLC, as soon as I get my LLC, I'm taking that EIN number. And by the way, this happens for almost everybody, right? You start getting these direct mails from credit card companies, Amex, right. Chase. Right. They're like, oh, hey, your LLC, why don't you get a business credit card with us? Right? Now, if you don't have a business credit card, then you should be saying yes and thank you. Okay, and this is why. They're going to ask you to basically guarantee the payments of that credit card with your social security number, but then they're also going to ask for the EIN of the company. This is how you begin building your business credit. Then if you want to take it a step further, you go get your Dun & Bradstreet number. So you have, an open credit line or credit rating with other business entities. Now, check this out. If you have good personal credit, okay, then all of a sudden that EIN has buying power. Sometimes this is the beauty of America, okay? Because that personal credit, this is why I have a complicated relationship with the country, right? Because it's like on one end, I'm like, see how y'all doing us. On the other end, as a businessman, I'm like, this is nice, right? So it's one of those things, right? But so you have your personal social security number, and you use that to guarantee the EIN. The EIN now has credibility with other organizations, a credit card, or you could go to Honda and say, hey, I need a car for my business so I can get around. Honda would say, okay, well, let's run your credit, right? So they're going to run the EIN and your social security to see how they can leverage, right? What a lot of folks don't know is when you buy a car through a business, the credit cap is larger than it is personally, right? So you can get more car. This is how entrepreneurs are driving these nice cars. Because it's through the business, right? Now, I don't know that it's a good thing. We're going to talk about this in a moment. I don't know that it's a good thing these entrepreneurs are driving these nice cars. If they're over leveraged, so they don't have savings and all that, it's not a good thing. But they can do it because that's the beauty of business credit. You have to be strategic. My wife and I, we didn't just up and decide, oh, we looking for a house. We're going to buy a house. Like 3 years ago, we like, when do we think we need to make this transition? And then when we said, okay, we're going to make this transition, even before we did that, we then said, what could we get off of what we're paying ourselves and our companies now? And so we ran that. Bank came back with a number. We're like, no, it's not bad. But you know what? I need $200,000 more. So then, hey, loan officer, how much should I be paying myself for that? This is all strategy, by the way. Okay, boom, start paying myself that. Because on the flip side, one of the things we want to do, as a family, is we don't want both of our names on the property. Makes no sense, right? So I told my wife, I'll put my name on the property. We'll leverage my income for the house and for the loan. And then I'll call Attorney Finn, and I'm like, hey, how do we put this in the trust, right? So that way we both have access to it. Something happens to me, my wife, no probate, no nothing. We're all good, right? It's all strategic. Like thinking like chess, right? 3, 4, 5, 6 moves ahead. So then we knew 2020, 2021, we're going to pay more in taxes than we normally do because we're taking bigger salaries. But we're taking bigger salaries because we want another home. That makes sense?
Yeah, that's the biggest lesson that I learned from the whole thing is, that making, not paying taxes and
how long, like for a window, does it take a person to really start seeing, residual income when you start their own business? Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah, good question. So how long does it take for you to start making, he said residual. That's a little different. That's different. That's a good question, Mark. And then he just hung up. You should have stuck around, right? That's a good question. All right, so let's discuss the difference between passive income, residual income, and other income. So one of the mistakes many entrepreneurs make is we basically are trading time for money. So if I'm not available, then no money's being made, okay? And this is something I thought about long and hard when I set my businesses up. Is, okay, now how will you make residual? Okay, so what is residual? Residual income is income that I'm getting from work I already did, right? So these are the residuals. How do people get residuals? Well, Michael Jackson got residuals. Prince got residuals. Jay-Z is living off residuals. Ever notice how the recession doesn't hit Beyonce and Jay-Z? Like, there's no less bling, right? Like, everybody else in the middle of recession, like, oh, Lord, how I'm going to pay my bills? And they, like, in the middle of the Mediterranean on a yacht, right? Like, nothing changed. Why? They have residual income, right? So, you like, oh, I can't pay my bills. I'm listening to Destiny's Child. Can he pay my bills? Like, Beyonce get another check, right? While you stressing out, listening to her, she getting another check, right? That's residual income. So how do you create residual income? Passive income. Passive income is when I'm receiving money for services that I've promised, right, that I deliver on. But no matter what, I get the money. As long as I deliver on those services. And so it's not equitable to time per se. It's just, it's passive. It's coming in. It's coming in. And this is, man, I've been talking to a few others, including Finn, about us doing some entrepreneur stuff. It's necessary. I see it. Like, yeah, we got to do it. We got to really do it for the community. Because these are the things we need to be thinking about when we build our business. So right now, one of the people that's listening, I'm thinking about former client runs a cleaning service, right? And so if I'm the CEO of that business, I'm trying to get out of the houses. You hear me? I ain't gonna say her name. I'm trying to get out of those houses. Why? Because if I can get out of those houses, all of a sudden the income is not just active income and passive income. It becomes mostly passive, right? Now I'm just managing people, delegating, organizing, and then I could be more strategic. Let's go to number 2 in terms of why entrepreneurs fail. Now I can be more strategic in my business. So if I'm running a service like that, my question is, how do I get out the house? How do I get out the house? And then, by the way, if Molly Maids can, so can I. Like, so can I. No difference. Let me tell you all, when I'm leveraging my business credit for a transaction, I give them as little information as possible. Let me give you an example of what I mean. So I'll be like, okay, I need credit for this particular transaction. Let's say it's a $30,000 transaction. So they'll send you the credit. They'll send you the credit form, and they're asking all these questions. How much money do you make? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, man, it's $30,000. I make $5,000 a month, right? So I don't put all my income down on the paper. Now, somebody might say, well, why do you do that? Well, because it's only $30,000. I'm trying to get $30,000. One of the mistakes that we make, listen to me. One of the mistakes that we make is we're trying to prove something to folks, right? So then in me trying to prove something, I put down, I make $300,000 a year, $200,000, whatever it is that you're bringing in. You put all of it down, and then guess what? Guess what's going to happen? Guess what's going to happen? They're going to say, hey, can you prove? Can you show us some proof of how you make all that money? They like, oh, he make $5,000. I don't need proof for that. Okay, he likely makes that. They look at your credit, $5,000. Okay, he can pay the bill, right? You go in, sign, walk away. But you put too much. You give them all your information. Like, I make all this. They like, well, we need to. It's a $30,000 loan. Why am I trying to prove to you I make $300,000? Because now they like, you gaming us, or either one is true or you're gaming us. I need to see. So keep that in mind, entrepreneurs. Like, as you do this, like just what you need to say. Say what you need to say, no more. Somebody's asking, Linnell, what do you think is the best business credit card? Now, I got 2 answers for that. I have 2 answers for that. One answer is around the company that will build your credit, your business credit, the best. Okay? Where you can leverage and gain more credit, credibility. The other is around what I get back. All right, so let's go with number 1. Like, what's going to give me the most credit, credibility, right? That's going to grow my business credit, et cetera. I would say hands down, American Express. Not everybody can get one. And so if it's not the first thing, like you might apply, they'd be like, oh, yeah, we're really sorry, right? Don't get discouraged. What I would say is then, go get the Chase card, go get the Capital One business card, go build your credit to the point where then later you can, but to me, the Amex Gold, they got the Amex Blue for business. Those are both okay, but you want to work your way up to like Amex Platinum. Now, why do I say it's the best credit card for businesses? Because now you have a concierge for traveling. You have all these different benefits and amenities that come with that card. Plus, you're accruing points. And here's another little piece of game. You guys. I accrue, so I have my business credit cards. All my business credit cards are getting points in cash. I use the points in cash personally. Y'all see how big this smile is for those of you on Facebook? Right? So all my business expenses, right, accrue points and cash. And then that points and cash I use, put it like this, put it in perspective. When Legend was a baby, you all, I never paid for a diaper. I never paid cash for a diaper. I leveraged my points. I'll be like, wife would be like, hey, we need a couple of more boxes. Well, all right, cool. Get on my computer, go to my Amazon account, order the boxes, use my points. The boxes would show up the next day, and I paid no cash. No cash. Right? And by the way, when I took the self-development trip, I used my credit card to accrue those points. Y'all see how big the smile is? Y'all ain't hearing me. You know what I'm saying? So on the back end, I'm not paying cash for things that other people are paying cash for. So that's one. All right. Then number two is, so that's a credit card credibility. Number two is getting a credit card that does a great job with points, a great job with cash. All right, so you have a few of them. Capital One is one of them that do a really good job of helping you accrue cash that then you can use against your balance, which I don't suggest if it's a business card. Do not use the cash unless you just have to, unless you got to pay that bill. But don't use the cash from that they have sitting there for the business credit card. You pay that off with the business revenue. You use that cash personally. It's a tax-free way of getting money. And the IRS has tried to close that one. I just read an article not too long ago about how they were trying to close that one. But it's still open. Use it. Use it, use it, use it, and abuse it. Okay.
I've attempted that with several tax people. They look at me like I'm crazy. And since I don't know how to present it correctly, I'm end up paying another bill. Instead of showing me how to make moves or make an adjustment or increase my income, they're just another bill each year. I need a tax person that understands this, what you just said.
Got you. So I would say interview them, man. Interview your tax professionals before you actually give them the work. Let them know what kind of entrepreneur you are. Maybe even send the show. Say, hey, man, will you watch this? I think it's, if you value me as a client, you could tell them what time stamp to go to. Is that something I can do in my business? Can you help me do this in my business? And,
okay.
A good tax professional will say, okay, I got you. Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Let me say this. I've worked with some pretty good tax professionals. I haven't met a perfect one yet. But I take full responsibility for my tax education. So if I ever come up against something, okay, and there was something recently where I found out that I could give Legend and my daughter money. As soon as she's born, she's going to get some money. Okay?
Okay.
All right? Why? Because it's a tax-free way for me to reduce my income. Okay? So I say this to my accountant. They're like, well, I don't know, Linnell. I'm like, okay, let me educate you. Right? It's tax code X, Y, and Z. This is how it's done, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, can you look that up? And then let's follow up next week in a conversation so we can execute on this. So notice I'm leading that conversation. I'm not sitting back waiting for them to, come up with all the codes, all the loopholes. Because at the end of the day, you got to remember that most of the tax professionals out here supporting us have multiple clients. And so it's just about finishing up I just need to finish up his taxes. I just need to complete his taxes, not complete his taxes in the most beneficial way for him and his family. So my job as an entrepreneur who I've hired you is to press you. I'm squeezing all the juice out my account. She knows it. Okay? She know, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? And then when I see the taxes, I say, okay, give me a week to look this over. We're not just filing. I need to look this over. I'm going through the line items, and I'm asking myself questions. Did I get, oh, man, you know, hey, baby, you get all your mileage in? Talking to Pam. You get all your mileage in on here? Okay, it's there? Okay. You sure you didn't miss something? Right, I'm looking for everything. Why? Because it's money. It's money. If I walked up to you right now, Walter, and said, hey, Walter, what's going on, brother? Give me $200. Would you?
Yeah.
That's good to know. I need to ask for money more often. Because this ain't alone.
Listen,
I want it. I just want it.
Yes, sir. Okay, hey, well, man, I expect it'll be all right, though.
I got you. But,
You know,
okay, if I was just anybody.
That on me once, and I drove to get it.
But if I was just anybody walking up to you, hey, Walter, give me $200, would you do it?
No.
Why not?
I'd have to know them. It couldn't be just anybody. I might not be doing them or myself any good.
Okay. Do you know the government? Do you know what they're about to do with your money?
Oh, okay. I don't trust the government, but I understand what you're saying.
I want them, man, I'm squeezing them. I'm trying to keep as much of my money in my pocket as possible. Because every time I get paid, they walk up and say, hey, Linnell, give me $1,000. Give me $200, depending on what we make. That's what they're doing.
Yes.
Am I right?
You're right.
So if it's a stick up, I want to make sure I have as little money on me. If I know every time I get paid, come on. If every Friday you leave the bank, the same dude sticks you up. Okay, he don't take it all.
Yeah.
Okay, he just takes 38% or 24%. Or you get my point?
Yes.
Every time you leave the bank, every Friday after you get paid, the same stick-up man is right there. He like, Walter, what's up, bro? I'm going to need that. And you already know I got $1,000 I got to give this man. I got to go ahead and break this man off 280 of it. So you even asking for 20s now. Can I get a few 20s? Because my man's going, you know, he's going to hit me as soon as I walk around the corner. Right?
Yeah.
And you got to give him 280 of your $1,000. Are you telling me that you're going to keep letting him do that? Or if you know you're going to get stuck up, you're going to lower the amount of money that you walking with.
Yes.
So now when I come around the corner, right, and he like, give me what you got. I'm like, oh, I don't have that much. Oh, all I got is this $50, Uncle. Uncle Sam.
Yes.
He like, oh, man. Well, give me $5. Right? I'm going to give him his $5 and I'm going to run down the street.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Most of us, I just gave that example again, stuck up. Right? Mm-hmm. Most of us, we would not allow it. We would, and if we knew we were going to get stuck up, we're going to start carrying as little as possible. But we get stuck up every year. We've been getting stuck up every year, and we run happily to the stick-up man. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. The CEO, the chief everything officer, entrepreneur. You can't be the chief everything officer entrepreneur. Like, you got to have a team. You got to have people that you trust that are in your business. Here's one of the mistakes I see a lot of us make in our community. A lot of us, especially when it comes to money, I don't trust nobody. You know, so I'm supposed to let her look at my books. And it's like, yes, you're supposed to let her look at your books because that's what she does, right? You sell cakes, right? So let the bookkeeper look at the books. Why is that important? I'll tell you a reason. I'm a coach, right? So I let the bookkeeper look at the books. End of the quarter, we have a conversation. Linnell, why didn't this client get an invoice? I'm like, huh? Well, why didn't this client didn't get the invoice? This invoice didn't go through. It didn't? I thought I sent that invoice. No, nothing got sent. Nothing got sent? No, we need to do that. We need to handle that. Now, right in that moment, my bookkeeper made all her money. Right? In that moment where coach made an invoicing mistake, right? She made all her money. If you're going to start a business, Like you want to invest in that business from jump. Now, let's be clear. Most businesses start with an idea, right? You start selling the food. You're making money. You like, oh, man, I made $1,000 last week. So, yeah, okay, 500 needs to go back into, the ingredients for the food. But, put that. See, we start spending money too quickly. Put that money up. Put it to the side. Okay, I made another $1,000. Now you got 1,000 saved up. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let me call a business attorney. And by the way, most attorneys are going to talk to you for the first few minutes for free, right? It's like they're going to give you, they're going to give you some game, let you know why you should bring them in. Same thing with an accountant. And by the way, CPA can start a business, attorney can start a business. I don't know which is better. I've done both. I would say the attorneys because they understand liability. And so, call the attorney up, say, hey, how much for an hour of your time? $400, $500, $600. Well, you got the $1,000 you put to the side, immediate business expense. That's time well spent, you all. Here's the thing. If you, I'm going to cover it next week why entrepreneurs fail, okay? But one of the reasons we fail is because we lack vision. We lack vision. Like, I'm not paying them no $500 for no hour. And it's like, well, okay, then, your business will grow and flounder. And then, it'll dissolve, evaporate, and be gone, just like other entrepreneurs. And I got the stats. I was going to share them today. I'm going to share them next week. And it'd be gone. There's a reason why so many entrepreneurs fail in the first 2 years. So that's what we do, right? You make that first investment. You understand, okay, here are my liabilities. This is how I want to set my company up. Why? Because then they're going to put you on all the game you need. Go start your bank account. Go get your accountant. All these things that make the business run. So for that $500, you now have, and I'm just guessing that's how much the attorney costs, right? You now have a very strong foundation to build your business on. Now you're getting credit. Now you got, your business is gaining credit because you have a credit card. You got the bank account. So now you can take business payments. Now if somebody gets sick on your food and they want to sue you, you be like, well, you can't sue me. You can sue my business, right? And let's say they do sue you. And like, well, I'm just growing. I don't have that much money. And so you close down that LLC, go back to your attorney, have them start another one. It's that, but we need support. You need to build your team from the beginning. You need to build your team from the beginning. Hey, my inspired peoples. Linnell Harris here, certified ontological coach and trainer. I'm so excited that you're watching the channel. By the way, did you know you can catch the show live at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every Sunday morning? You can. All you have to do is go to my Facebook stream, Coach Linnell Harris, catch the stream live, or you can listen to the radio show via iHeart at WVON 1690 AM. But since you're here, if you love the content, I ask that you share it, like this particular video, and subscribe to the channel. I hope you're having a great day.